I'm Jackson Outlaw, and I am an alcoholic. Um, I've struggled with addiction and alcoholism since I was starting when I was 8 years old, and grew to harder substances when I was 11. And the older I got, the harder the substances got, and that's when the journey started. And it started out, fun with no consequences, turned to fun with some consequences, and by the end of it, it was just no fun and nothing but consequences. And I felt like I had no choice but to do it anymore. By the end of it, I was homeless on the streets of South Florida. I'd been out there for 2 years, hadn't talked to my family in 2 years. I was extremely sick, and lost the function of my legs and my arms. I had a fever that was going on for about a week and a half, and um, a guy came and picked me up and put me into his car and drove me to the hospital. I didn't know that guy literally saved my life that night. I thought he was being just a pain. But 15 minutes into the hospital, I stopped breathing. They started running tests on me. They put me on life support, all that. They found out I had endocarditis, an infection of the heart, that came from MRSA, infected all my organs, turned to sepsis. And I was in the hospital for 2 months, had to get heart procedures. And little did I know that day would be the biggest blessing in my life. Um, I'd been in and out of recovery for years, starting when I was really 19, when I started wanting to get sober for myself, but just never really knew how to do it. I've been in countless treatment centers. I've been told a spiritual way of life, but I'd never really surrounded myself with people that fully lived this thing out. And maybe I did, but I just didn't buy into it, truthfully. So, coming to Discovery Place, which is a godsend that I even got here. I went to another place before I came, and I had heard how this place is incredible, how whatever you're thinking it's going to be, you have no idea the actual impact it's going to have when you go there. And I thought they were trying to get me to come here, truthfully, because people will tell you anything to get you into a treatment center. So I come, and first day I was here, we were they had our alumni night. And I remember just seeing the way everybody interacted with each other. People that don't get paid by the treatment center, that aren't clients of or guests of the treatment center, coming back and just enjoying time with each other, eating together, um, cutting up after the meeting, and people picking up chips. I saw something was special here. So I gave into it, and I'd been beaten up. I was ready just to do whatever. So they told me sit down, take some suggestions, uh, and listen. So I did. Being here, I was surrounded by guys that are genuinely living this, and they didn't just tell me how to live this way of life. They showed me firsthand how to do it. They walked me through the way they did it, and I started taking their suggestions, and things just started working out. I can't say I did anything. It's only through a power greater than me and the help of the community that I'm able to stay sober today, and that things are going the way that things are going, as good as they have been. And my previous times in recovery, I've had over a year before, but every time I'd leave where I was living and go back to North Carolina, where my family's from, for holiday or vacation or anything, I just felt like I was stepping away from recovery. Like I'd pick myself up from where I was at and drop me back in my stomping grounds, and I was just on my own. This time around, it's just completely different because I have this relationship with a higher power that I got from the people around me. Like the Discovery Place didn't tell me who God was, but they showed me, through the kindness, through the love, through acts of service. Just the how we're genuinely out to help the next person. That showed me what my God is. And it's a God that I've got this ever changing relationship with this never changing God today that I'm so grateful for. Um, and so my grandpa passed a couple months ago. Actually, my grandpa passed away. But before he passed away, my parents called me and said things have like turned for the worst, and we want you to be able to come say goodbye to him. But if you're not comfortable with it, we know it's difficult. We know you're early on in your sobriety. It's your decision, which is already a miracle in itself because my parents tell me what they want me to do. Um, and it's a miracle that I'm even being able to hear it because I hadn't talked to them in 2 years before I decided to get help this time. And obviously, I wanted to be able to say goodbye to him. I hadn't seen him in a couple of years. My grandpa's been my idol, one of my idols my whole life. So I flew up there to see him, and by the time I got there, he already had this rattle in his breathing, where it sounded like he was gonna die any minute. And I got to say my goodbyes to him. I prayed with him and held his hand, and he was still holding on. So I was gonna stay there until he had passed, and I made a little pallet, like a bed, beside him, and I stayed next to him the whole entire time I was there, sleeping next to him at night, helping him take his meds because he wasn't responsive. He would respond with touch sometimes, but that was really it. In the morning, I could pray. I would pray with him. I do my morning devotions. The whole entire time I was there, guys would be calling me, texting me, sending me prayers, um, just checking on me to make sure everything was going okay and ask how they could help. And so when I went there, I never felt like I left recovery. I felt like recovery came with me. And as much as I can say, like, yeah, of course it was sad. It was my grandfather, but being able to be there was one of the best things that's ever happened to me. And looking back at, if you told me a year ago that I would say that whole experience is one of the best experiences I've ever had, I tell you it was a lie. Like, there's absolutely no way. Um, but the change that happens since I've been at Discovery Place and living this way they've showed me to live, I don't realize it until it's in the future. I'm looking back and I'm saying, wow, like something's different, you know. Um, and it's only because of the people that Discovery Place put me around, truthfully. Uh, and so through that trip, I was able to uh, clean my grandpa. I had to change his diapers. I found some tattoos on him that I probably shouldn't have known the man had. Um, and we got to sit around with family around him and just talk about stuff. And there's this thing called the rally when people are about to be passing away from natural causes. They have this like a little bit of glimpse of themselves again. And he like kind of came back to it. And I hadn't heard my grandpa's voice in a really long time. And his eyes opened up when I was cleaning him. And he reached his hand out and touched my beard and said my name, Jackson. And and I think that was probably his way of telling me to shave my beard. But 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 it was such a touching moment. And so the last thing, and that whole day, my grandpa had his eyes open, was kind of responding and stuff, and I got to see that humor of my grandpa again. It was awesome, and he got to see his grandson praying with him. He got to see me doing my devotionals. He got to see me doing my journaling. Um, Something that he probably never thought he was going to be able to see. And I was reading this article about that was written on my grandpa back in the 70s. And my grandpa, I'm not gonna get into his story, but my grandpa was very successful, but he had only had a sixth grade or an eighth grade education, and he was in a business meeting when he was a grown man, and everybody was talking about their different degrees and um, their certifications, all this stuff, and my grandpa said that he went to the School of Hard Knocks and got a degree in God's love, and it's something cool that I can kind of share that with them because I may not have many certifications, may not have any degrees, but I'm overqualified to help the next sick and suffering alcoholic. And Discovery Place puts me in a place where I can do that, and that's only because of what I used to be. I would say it was the worst thing that ever happened to me. Is today my biggest blessing, my biggest tool. If I didn't know how bad it could get, I wouldn't know how great it is today. And after that trip with seeing my grandpa, I held his hand when he passed away. I never felt more like a man. I never felt stronger in my recovery. I never felt closer to my higher power than I ever have in those moments. And I'm so grateful for Discovery Place. I'm so grateful for the relationship I've got with my higher power because if it wasn't for that, I would have never got to have that experience with my grandpa. And today, that's the most impactful experience I've ever had. And I know my family's grateful for Discovery Place. And there's not words that can describe what I found here in Discovery Place because opportunities open up for me to work other places. Homes open up for me to move in other places. But there's not another community that is like this that I've been able to personally find. You know, it's just the brotherhood, the family aspect, the people that are altruistically giving for nothing except just to see you succeed is such a great place. And I don't want to not be a part of what's here. I just continuously want to be a part of what's going on here. Yeah, that's all I got.